Hola, Joel, ¿cómo estás? Oye, me urge hablar contigo.
I hadn't heard my dad's voice in 22 years, and when Rolando called me, I didn't know if I should answer. He vanished when I was a child, and he left behind stories, silence, and questions that were unanswered for me. That call, it marked more than a reunion. It was the beginning of a counseling journey. It was one rooted in listening, empathy, and the belief in healing through connection. And over the 7 phone calls, I heard his pain, and I started understanding mine.
Orlando is a 57-year-old immigrant from Jalpa, Zacatecas. His life was forged in poverty, survival, and silence. As a child, he was beaten, ignored, and pushed into responsibility. And as an adult, he came to the U.S. chasing opportunity, but found hardship of another kind.
In 1996, my mother was permanently disabled in an accident at Benson's cookie factory, and after that, he became the only provider. And not just for us, but for her siblings that immigrated to the U.S. as well. I asked him how that made him feel, and he said, "Era muy difícil." That was very hard. And then he told me about the day that her brother hit him for trying to protect us. He said that one day her brothers were drinking and he went to tell them to, go elsewhere, and her brother punched him in the face. And that moment stuck with him, and it wasn't because of the pain, but because no one stood up with him. He was scared, not of the violence, but of what we were witnessing as children. He felt invisible, dismissed, and used. That night, I just listened. No advice, no judgment, just space. I approached our talks using Alderian counseling tools. I focused on active listening, paraphrasing, validating, pausing. I asked about his earliest memories. Every one of them was about surviving, carrying burdens, being left out. He never mentioned joy, or play, or peace. Adler believed that early recollections reveal our beliefs about life. Rolando's memories painted a clear picture. He believed that to survive, he had to stay quiet, and that belief followed him for decades. When I listened, something in me began to shift. I had always seen him as a villain, one who left. But now I saw a man overwhelmed by silence and expectations. One day, he told me something deeply personal, then paused and he asked, "Are you going to hate me for telling you this?" And I said, "No. Thank you for telling me. Anything you tell me will stay just between us." When we finally met in person, I froze. I didn't know how to greet him. Hug? Shake hands? Years of stories, lies, and silence flashed through me. But then I said, "Let's start from today." That moment redefined everything. It wasn't about what he did or didn't do. It was about what we could still build.
Rolando never learned how to speak his pain. In Mexican culture, men aren't taught that. He carried silence like armor. And so did Joel's brother.
My brother Jesus, he mocks me for reconnecting, but I see through it. I see pain disguised as sarcasm. You know, we inherited silence. We've just handled it differently. This journey changed me. It taught me that healing starts when we feel safe to speak and be heard. I now believe healing is fostered when pain is honored without interruption, and dignity is restored through connection. Rolando wasn't trying to survive. He was trying to matter. He didn't need a therapist. He needed someone to say, "I'm here. I hear you." And sometimes that's enough to start again. As we spoke, I began to see the patterns of pain woven through his story. And with each conversation, I listened. Not as a son who had been hurt, but as a counselor in training. Adler's theory gave me a lens. But it was listening that gave me connection. I used reflective listening and early recollections tools from Alderian counseling to help him explore his own story. His memories of childhood weren't just sad, they were soaked in silence. In every stage of life, he had one recurring role: the invisible provider, always needed, never nurtured. With every story he shared, something inside of me changed. My grief turned into curiosity. My anger softened into understanding. As a child, I believed that he abandoned us. But through these conversations, I heard the truth. He had been abandoned too, in different ways. And seeing my father again in person, it just felt unreal. The silence between us had lasted a lifetime, but cultural silence, especially in Mexican families, runs even deeper. In our culture, men aren't taught to speak about their emotions. Rolando had only ever been taught to endure. And that silence didn't just affect him, it shaped me too. And while my brother, Jesus, he rejects any attempt to reconnect, I understand now. Healing doesn't look the same for everyone. What had begun as a phone call became a counseling journey, one that reshaped the way that I see fatherhood, healing, and what it means to truly be heard. I've come to believe now that healing begins with safety, not in solutions, but in space. Space where pain can be voiced without judgment. I'm realizing that Adler was right. People are driven by belonging and significance. And sometimes, all it takes to begin again is one person willing to say, "I'm here. I hear you."